Hi guys, welcome back to The Wargamer and another Horus Heresy painting tutorial. In this video I'm going to be showing you how you can paint the Alpha Legion, and I'll be using the Citadel range of paints to do so. Before we can begin painting our miniature, we first of all need to prime it, and for this I've used a grey spray primer. Now you can use pretty much any colour you wish, but I find grey is really great when you're applying colours such as blues and greens to these miniatures. Now you may notice that our Space Marine is missing some components, notably his backpack and his right arm. Now I've kept these separate to make painting much easier later on. This is entirely optional, but it does help a lot. After priming, the first task is to base coat the entirety of our miniature's armour, and for this we'll be using Ahriman Blue. Now when base coating, I would highly recommend creating a mixture of at least 1 part water to 1 part paint. Applying this over the entirety of the miniature, allow it to dry thoroughly before applying a second layer over the top. By layering up the paint in this way, we get a really nice and even base colour without obscuring any of the details by applying the paint too thickly. Once our base coat has been completed, the next step is to apply a wash over the entirety of the armour using Coelia Green shade. The slightly green colouring of this wash will give us a turquoise finish on the armour, and it will also flow into all those recesses, helping to bring out the details. Applying these washes straight out of the pot can be a little bit too strong, so I would highly recommend once again watering them down slightly. Roughly 1 part water to 1 part wash should suffice. After allowing the wash to dry, we now want to apply an edge highlight using Baharroth Blue. To edge highlight, you'll want to get a small brush with just a very small amount of watered down paint on the tip of that brush. Now instead of using the 1:1 ratio we use for the base coat, I instead use a 2 part paint to 1 part water mixture. This will improve the flow of the paint and make it a lot easier to control. So with your loaded paintbrush, lightly drag it along those hard edges on the miniature. This will really help to enhance the detailing that we have on this armour. The final step in painting the armour is to apply a glaze of Waywatcher Green. Now this may look quite similar to a wash, but it is different. Instead of flowing into the recesses, a glaze will sit on the surface and give the armour a slightly greenish hue. Now you have 2 choices on how you can apply this. You can either apply it across the entirety of the armour, or you can focus it on the bottoms of each of the armour panels. The second option, which I'm doing here, does take a little bit more work, but gives you a better result overall. One tip that I can give you to help improve the smoothness of the transitions is to mix in some Lahmian Medium in with your glaze. Again, roughly 1 part glaze to 1 part Lahmian Medium should suffice. Once you've successfully applied your first layer and allowed it to dry, you can then apply subsequent layers over the top. With our armour completed, we can now start painting the black areas of the miniature. This includes some of the pipes, the straps along the chest, and also the areas in between the armour panels. And I'll be painting all of these areas with a base coat of Abaddon Black. With our base coat of Abaddon Black completed, the next step is to apply a highlight of a Mechanicus Standard Grey over these areas. Don't forget to slightly dilute your paint to improve its flow. Remember, 2 parts paint to 1 part water should suffice. With the black areas of the miniature completed, I'll now be painting any red areas with a base coat of Khorne Red. This includes the lenses in the helmet, the handle of the sword, and also the plasma vent on the plasma pistol as well. The next step in painting our red areas is to apply a wash of Carroburg Crimson. Now as Carroburg Crimson as a reddish colour, it won't dull down the red colour that we already have, but it will slightly darken down those recesses and help to bring out the details. When applying this wash to some of the hard to reach areas, especially the lenses, be very careful with how you apply this wash. Use a small brush to help improve the control, and try not to overspill onto the armour areas we've already painted. The final step in painting our red areas is to use some Trollslayer Orange to pick out the raised areas. For the lenses, simply paint a fine line at the bottom of the lens, as this will give us a slightly glassy appearance. The next step in painting our Alpha Legion Space Marine is to tackle the leather pouches, and for this I'm going to be using a base coat of Mournfang Brown. Continuing with the leather pouches, we now want to apply a wash of Agrax Earthshade to these areas. To finish off painting our leather areas, I'll now be applying an edge highlight using Scrag Brown. With the matte areas of the miniature completed, we can now start working on the metallics. Now the first areas I'll be tackling will be the buckle on the chest and also the hilt on the sword. I'll be painting all of these areas using a base coat of Sycorax Bronze. With our bronze base coats completed, we can now apply a wash of Agrax Earthshade to these areas. This wash will not only slightly darken down the colour of these areas, but also help to flow into those recesses, bringing out the details. Now instead of highlighting the bronze areas, I'll instead be first of all base coating the silver metallic areas on the miniature. These include many different items such as parts of the plasma pistol, the blade of the sword, some of the pipes and items on the helmet, and all the studs on the armour as well. And we want to base coat all of these areas using Leadbelcher. With our base coat of Leadbelcher completed, the next step is to apply a wash of Nuln Oil over all of the silver metallic areas we painted in the previous step. The reason I'm using Nuln Oil for this is it will help to darken down these areas whilst retaining that silver colouring. The very last step in painting our Space Marine is to highlight all of the edges of all of the metallic areas we've previously painted using Stormhost Silver. And here we have the completed Alpha Legion Space Marine. Now I've included a full list of the paints I've used in the tutorial in the description below, and in there you can also find links to both my Facebook and Instagram pages, as well as my Facebook group, The Wargamers. If you enjoyed this video, please do let me know in the comments below, and also give me your suggestions for which Horus Heresy era Space Marine Legion you would like to see me tackle next. And finally, I just want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are what make these videos possible, so a big thank you to you. And if you're interested in supporting me as well, you can do so by checking out my Patreon page, which you can find a link to in the description. And from there you can donate to me from as little as $1 a month, which just really help me in producing future content. And so all that's left to say is thanks for watching and goodbye.